it's Carly. Welcome back to my channel. So this video has been on my heart for about a month now, and if I'm being honest, I was a little nervous to make it just because I'm going to be sharing some really personal things with all of you, putting it on the internet, and yeah, talking about some times where I actually doubted God. And those are times that I'm not proud of at all. But the more and more I thought about it, I realized that we all have things in our lives that we aren't proud of. It's important to be vulnerable and honest when sharing the stories that God has given us. He calls us to do this in order to encourage others and to lift one another up. So I'm really hoping that my story can do that for at least one of you. That's my hope. That's my goal. I hope that my testimony can show the significance of trusting God and letting His plan unfold. So without further ado, let's dive into it. Okay, so I was raised the same way as a lot of other Christians were. I grew up in the church, going to the same one since I was born all the way until now, because I haven't moved out for college yet. So I've been going to the same church my whole life. I would always go to Sunday school, and from a very early age, I definitely had an understanding of who God was, and I knew that I wanted to put my trust into Him and put my faith into Him. So I was very confident about my faith from that age. And around that same time where I really began to grow in that confidence, I just watched the movie Soul Surfer. I'm sure many of you have watched it before. It's about Bethany Hamilton, who was a pro surfer, and basically one day when she was surfing as a teenager, a shark bit off her arm, and it changed the course of her life forever, but she was able to put her trust in Jesus and accomplish all of her dreams. As I watched that movie for the first time at age 7, I really just prayed to God that I would have a story like that, where I could go through something so that I could tell of Him. Well, as I started to grow up, I began to write my own story. My dream had always been to be a professional ballet dancer. It was my goal ever since I started dance class at 2 years old, and I really wanted to get pointe shoes, to move to New York, and to be a professional ballerina at a major ballet company. And that was my dream for so many years. But in 5th grade, I was diagnosed with scoliosis, which is a curvature of the spine, and that changed the trajectory of my perfect story. We were up at Children's Hospital, and my doctor told me that I had 2 choices. I could either try and wear a back brace, which was basically a plastic corset that I would have to wear for about 18 to 20 hours a day, pretty much all the time unless I was in the water or exercising, or I could have a major surgery, which I definitely did not want to do as a 10-year-old, because that surgery would paralyze my spine, and that did not sound fun to me. So I definitely decided that I was going to do the back brace, and I thought, okay, this is what's going to happen. There is a 1 in 3 chance that this will work out for me, and obviously it's going to work out for me because this is what I want, and, you know, I'm praying to God about it, and He's on my side for this one. So I'll wear the back brace for however long it takes. It's gonna suck, I'm gonna hate it, but then I'll eventually be able to beat scoliosis and become a professional dancer. That was the story I was gonna write. And again, I thought it would definitely work because 1 in 3 isn't that crazy. I was like, I think that since I'm a Christian, since I'm praying to God through this and being faithful to Him, He'll make it work out. But I quickly realized that even just wearing the brace was a lot harder than I expected. It automatically made me different than everyone else. No one else in my class had to go up to the hospital every month. No one else had to fear like someone knocking into you and feeling just like a plastic corset around you. And God was just writing a lot of parts of my story that I did not want in there. But I still had dance, so I really tied myself to dance in this time. Again, the only times I could take off the brace was when I was exercising. So I ended up going to dance about 20 hours a week as a 6th grader on top of school, which was a little crazy. I would not recommend that. I think it was insane. But dance was the thing that helped keep me going because that was my goal. Except after a few years had passed of me wearing the brace, I did begin to put more faith in dance than I did in Jesus. But I still had faith in Jesus because I was like, I'm just so certain that this brace is gonna work and that I'm gonna get the story that I wanted. Well, didn't happen. The brace did not work. After about 2 years of wearing it, it had only made my spine worse. And so we had another option. We could either try more physical therapy or I could get the surgery. And again, I did not want to get the surgery because it sounded absolutely terrible. So I was like, okay, this new plan has to work. Here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna go to this place called Scoliosis on the other side of the country for 2 weeks, do some physical therapy, get my spine back to normal, and then I'm gonna become a professional dancer, and that's gonna be my story. So I did. My mom and I flew across the country when I was in 7th grade, spent a few weeks at this intensive for my spine, and we actually saw amazing results. At the time, my curves in my spine had gone from a 16-degree point to a 42-degree point, which is the point that most people need surgery at. And because we had gone to this place called Scoliosis, my spine actually got back down to about a 30-degree curve, which was in like the safe zone for not needing surgery. So I was so happy. My story was working out perfectly, and all I had to do was go home, do physical therapy for the next few months, and it would all work out. And immediately when I got home, I dove back into dance again. I was doing that physical therapy, and I was so certain that my story would be the one that would play out. But again, it didn't. God just kept writing in these parts that I did not want there. And because my story didn't work out the way I'd wanted to the second time around, I fell into a very intense state of grief and disappointment and even depression. For that whole summer between 7th and 8th grade, I couldn't help think, why am I even here? What is the point of this? I've already endured years of hardship. I should be getting my story now. I should be going on track to being a professional ballet dancer. This isn't the story I wanted. I was not in a good place at all. I couldn't bear to know that nothing I tried to do worked. And it was really hard to put my trust in God because I had tried everything and I had tried being faithful to Him through this. So I ended up just settling on forgetting it. I tried to throw my story away, pretend like none of that had ever happened, and go on with my 8th grade year as nothing had changed. I was gonna go to school, I was gonna go to dance, I was gonna become a professional ballet dancer just like I wanted to. But months and months and months passed, and I just couldn't get the story out of my head. I still felt like God was trying to write it, and I was holding back. So I really started to listen to Him again because it had been almost a year since I had been to Scoliosis, and I was still in a deep stage of grief and disappointment. I didn't know how, I didn't know why, but I just felt God telling me, you need to have the surgery. You need to keep letting me write your story. Even though it's nothing that you wanted it to be, I'm the author and I'm going to keep writing this because this is in my plan. And I honestly don't know how the switch went in my head. It must have been a God thing, but I agreed. I decided to listen and I signed up to get spinal fusion surgery. I scheduled my surgery for December 18th of 2018 during my freshman year of high school, and I very strategically planned it. I planned it just after the Nutcracker, just after our cast party, and to the point where I could hopefully make it back to do the spring show and a summer intensive. And I thought, okay, this is what's gonna happen. This is gonna be my story. This is my Bethany Hamilton moment. I'm going to get this surgery. I'm going to face a lot of trauma coming out of it because that's what's gonna happen. That's the reality of it. I'm not gonna be able to walk after surgery. I'm gonna have to relearn how to do that. I'm gonna have to relearn simple tasks like putting my clothes on, showering, moving stuff around, lifting things, but it's all gonna be okay because this is going to be the worst part of my story and it can only get better from here. I'm going to be a professional dancer. This is my adversity, and then it's gonna all work out because that's going to be the hardest part of my life. That's going to be the climax. It was a very, very challenging part of my life, and God continued to write in things that I didn't want there. The month leading up to my surgery, some of my best friends betrayed me. My boyfriend broke up with me, and my grandmother passed away unexpectedly on our very last day of the Nutcracker. It was definitely the hardest month of my life, but I kept thinking, this is how God works. He's going to put me through this hard situation and then make my life easier from there on out. I'll get to be a professional ballet dancer. All of my dreams are gonna come true. Even though I'm here right now and even though I hate it and it's awful, this is what's gonna happen. So after I got out of surgery, I began walking on the second or third day, which is pretty quick for most people. I went to school less than a month after it, and I went back to dance less than 2 months after it. Obviously, I had to start slow, but I was so happy to be back. I knew that my story was being written the way I wanted it to be, and honestly, I was able to accomplish pretty much everything I wanted to. I did do the spring show that year. I did go to the Rock Summer Intensive, which was a dream of mine. I did compete in YGP the following year, and I even got an offer to film a Netflix documentary based on me and my story. But even though I was accomplishing all these things, and even though I could see my dream very, very close to me, I knew deep down that dance wasn't a passion of mine anymore. I didn't know why. I was really frustrated about that. I really wanted to be the person that achieved their goals in the midst of adversity, but I just didn't know if that was my story anymore. Maybe I would achieve some other stuff, but it wouldn't be in the professional dance world. I had a really hard time letting go of that and finding my identity within Christ and not in dance. I had tied my identity so much to this story that I was writing for myself that I didn't want my life to be any other way. Through my sophomore and junior year, I fell into the deepest depression I had ever been in, to the point where I didn't want to live anymore. I was dealing with self-harm, I was dealing with disordered eating, and a lot of grief and trauma from what I had experienced and the things that I had lost. I didn't know who I was anymore without dance, and my perfect narrative wasn't perfect anymore, and I didn't know what could be. Throughout all of these years, I had always looked to the verse Jeremiah 29:11, which I had heard for the very first time from Soul Surfer. It says, "For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." But the thing that I wasn't paying attention to was the last two verses. They say, "Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all of your heart." And it took a lot of time, but eventually I was able to get to the point where I was seeking God with my whole heart. I let him continue to be the one writing my story, surrendering all to him. And because I decided to choose him, I was able to see my story be written. And believe me guys, it's better than any story that I could have ever written myself. He's given me new passions for speaking and ministry. He's given me amazing friends that lead me closer to Christ. He helps me discover my dream university, where the theme verse is Jeremiah 29:11 through 13, by the way. And he's given me a future that I am so excited for. And I think the best part is my best friend and I were talking the other day, and we honestly have no idea what's going to happen in our lives, but we feel such peace and comfort knowing that God is the writer of our stories, that he knows exactly how everything's going to play out. And as long as we keep looking to him and trusting in him, we're gonna see it happen one day. He is able to write a story so amazing for us, and better than we could have ever done ourselves. So I'm very excited to see where his story leads me. It's definitely hard not to set up expectations. I'm just trying to work on surrendering it all to him. So yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed hearing my testimony and the story that God is writing in my life. Also, comment down below how you are choosing joy today. And as always, my DMs are always open for prayer requests. See you guys next time.